Eater, and I'm going to tell you a story about how a small gesture kind of changed my life, made me appreciate small gestures and what they could do. It was about 17 years ago, and my husband and I were going through a rough time financially. We had just had our son Matthew, our youngest. My husband was back in college. We had just moved into a new house, and we honestly did not have any money. And Matthew was a surprise baby, so we didn't have any supplies or anything. About the only thing that we had was a crib for him. We had gotten rid of the stroller and everything else. Anyway, long story short, people at work, I was teaching at Hamilton Southeastern Junior High, which is now Fall Creek Junior High, so I was in that building, and my friends knew how difficult the situation was for me and my family. Well, small little things just kind of started happening to me. For example, I would walk out to my car in the morning to leave for work, and there would be a case of baby formula sitting there behind my car. I would come to school, and hanging from my doorknob at my school would be a bag with a big package of diapers in it. One time I found clothes on the chair of my classroom, and it was a series of small gestures. Now, I had an inkling as to who this was, you know, the people that may have been involved. Mr. Mayhew's wife, Mrs. Mayhew, is one of my dearest friends, and I remember going up to her and saying, you know, Lisa, I know that you're doing this. And she would just say, I don't know what you're talking about. And even though it was a series of small gestures, it was immeasurable in the effect that it had on myself and my family. So we couldn't afford diapers, and they would magically appear. Formula is expensive, and it would magically appear. And what it did for me is, we still don't have a whole heck of a lot of money, I'm not going to lie, and I can't donate money the way that some people are able to do. But what I can do is, if we have a staff member who's having a baby, I can prepare a meal. That is a small gesture that makes a huge difference in someone else's life. And what it really taught me is that it's just a small little gesture, a little act of kindness that not only can help someone else, but can make you feel so good about paying it forward. And hopefully that chain would just continue to go on and on and on. So do something small for somebody. You just never know how it can impact them.
My lollipop moment comes from my 4th grade teacher, Mrs. Russell, who one day gave us a math assignment, and we took it home, completed it, came back the next day, she graded it, and announced to the class that only 2 people in the class had gotten all of the answers correct, and these 2 people would be able to exempt themselves from the next homework assignment. I struggled in school in my earlier years, and so this was the first time in my schooling career that a teacher had actually announced that I was the one who had done such a great job on the homework. It was a surprise and a shock to me. While she was just doing her job, and it seems like it's something that was so small, I went on those next 2 years as we looped with her to want to impress her, to want to show her the type of student that I could be. And I attribute myself being a teacher now because of her. I think that I got into teaching because of Mrs. Russell, and it might be because of that lollipop moment that I had with her. So I'm very thankful for that moment with her.
A lot of you are aware that my best friend and my sister-in-law, Patty, died tragically last spring on a gorgeous April morning as she was driving to work. She died in a car accident, and we were told initially that the first responders, when they arrived, she was already gone, and so that meant basically that she died alone. And on Saturday afternoon, our whole family went out to the place where the accident happened, just because we had to. And while we were there, this guy pulls up and starts walking over to us and asks us if we were the family of the woman who had died in the accident. And of course we said yes. And he said, well, he was the first person that was on the scene. And so my brother-in-law, Peter, asked him if Patty said anything, since he was there before the first responders. And he said that no, she didn't say anything, but that he was there and he did hold her hand. That gesture, stopping when we were there, stopping to tell us what he had done and that he had been with my sister-in-law, meant the world to us. That was a small act of compassion and kindness that gave us so much comfort. She wasn't alone. She wasn't by herself. There was someone there with her. And that kindness that he gave to her basically made something that was pretty much the most unbearable thing that any of us had to go through a tiny bit easier.